What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode. Today I am here with a dear brother, a very inspiring gentleman, a good friend. This gentleman, I'm very excited to have him on. I'm very excited to co-create and to collaborate with him in the near future. I love what he's up to, and I love his vibe, and I know that you will too. So please, everybody, welcome the great and powerful Mr. Craig Goldberg. How you doing today, brother?
Doing spectacular. Thank you for having me, and excited to collaborate and co-create with you as well, and to meet your audience, and let's see where this conversation goes.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for being here. So, Craig, you are the co-founder and president of In Harmony. Is it In Harmony or In Harmony Interactive?
In Harmony Interactive is the official name. Actually, In Harmony Interactive and In Harmony Media. We just launched our record label, which we'll talk about too, I'm sure.
Oh, wow. Yes, we'll definitely talk about that. Beautiful. So I found you through, I'm pretty sure, through like Instagram, right? I loved In Harmony. I loved what the technology you guys are working on. I was looking for different technology, really different conscious technology companies to partner up with and to co-create with. And I reached out to you guys, and you almost immediately hit me back and said, hey, let's hop on a call. And I love it when people do that. I can't stand that red tape vibe where, I say red tape, kind of the vibe where it's just like, yeah, maybe if you speak to our ambassador manager, then maybe you can have an appointment and we'll schedule a Calendly next week. And you just, yeah, I know. And you hit me back, and then we got on a phone call, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, this makes total sense. Craig's a brother. Like, we started talking about plant medicine and meditation and yoga and sound baths and all the things. So I'd love for you to give a nice background on how you became the co-founder and president of In Harmony, and what events in your life led you to become who you are today.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's a great question, and certainly a story that I love telling. I'll tell it as concisely as I can, and you'll get the best version yet.
Perfect.
You know, it's interesting when we start thinking about mental health, mindfulness, and being awake or being more aware and conscious of our existence. There are specific triggers for that. And me and my wife have been traveling the globe, speaking, teaching, training, educating on how to live a healthy life. We actually had our own podcast. I ran 10 episodes, and it was the most challenging and time-consuming release that I had ever done. But I think an important part to educate, to teach, to train. And me and my wife found, well, I'll take it even further than that. About 10 years ago, my wife got sick. And doc after doc, nobody could tell us what was wrong with her. For about 6 months, specialist after specialist, and test after test, and everything kept coming back negative. I don't even know if you've heard this story, right? And
I haven't. No, I'm excited.
And we just couldn't figure out. For any of you that have gone through that with a child or a loved one or a spouse, significant other, it's really challenging to watch the medical world try and diagnose and figure out what's going on. You feel so helpless, and that's how I felt for 6 months going through all of this. And in the end, it wound up being gluten. One simple ingredient that we removed from our diet, and literally within 72 hours, all of her symptoms went away. And I'll share those symptoms because I think it's really important. We know a lot more now about gluten than we did then, and different ingredients and diet, nutrition, that sort of thing. But for my wife, she's gorgeous, has beautiful olive Turkish skin, and she was getting cysts on her face. All of her lymph nodes from her waist up were swollen. For those that don't know, we have about 500 lymph nodes in the body. And I mean, we're used to the ones in the throat getting swollen when you're not feeling so great or something's coming on. For my wife, the lymph nodes behind her ears were swollen. Under her arms were swollen, uncomfortable, actually. And we did biopsies. Everything came back negative. The giveaway was actually my voice, my wife losing her voice, as I have to clear my own throat. And it was actually a friend of ours who said, you're losing your voice. And she said, yeah. And it was almost like clockwork. Saturday afternoon around 3, 4 o'clock, my wife would lose her voice. And it was a close girlfriend of ours, Roxy, who said, stop consuming gluten. As she had a beer in her hand, and we used to be quite social. We'd go out Thursday night for happy hour. We'd go to work on Friday. We'd get together for friends and have drinks. And usually there was always a beer in our hands. And it was that regular access to gluten in the beer that that actually was the trigger for her. Excuse me.
How interesting, man. Yeah. And imagine how many other people are experiencing that right now. You know, they're drinking beer casually and they have no idea that the gluten in the beer is just crushing their health.
It's like death by 1,000 cuts is how we equate.
Yeah.
And anyhow, she gave up gluten. 3 days later, all of her symptoms went away. That basically led to a deep dive into really understanding how our bodies interact with the world around us, how our bodies interact with different foods that we could be eating that lead to an inflammatory response, right? Now we know a lot more than we did then, but it triggered this deep dive into really understanding that. Okay, that eventually led to us cleaning out our house and removing all of the gluten from our house, going organic, and becoming incredibly conscious about these three main environments: what we put in our mouth, what we put on our skin, and what we allow to be kept in the air around us. And the reality for us is that we live in a toxic world. We are constantly exposed to toxicity. We were just talking about this beforehand, in plant medicines and its ability to help detox the body and different detox protocols that we can go on. And for us, it was part of our awakening, right? To recognize and become conscious of all of the different inputs that we put this vessel into. And that includes bars and nightclubs with cigarette smoke. It includes different extracurriculars. It includes the foods we eat and, of course, the makeup that my wife wears and the lotions that we use and all of these different things. And what we found is when we cleaned up these environments one by one, and it's not about doing everything at once, but when we clean up these environments, we feel better. And our body has a better ability to interact and to take us where we want to get to. And this led us to letting go of deodorant because deodorant has aluminum in it. And again, we know so much more now than we did then. It seems almost, but then we didn't know. And I stopped wearing deodorant, cleaned up my diet. We went vegan. And I came home from work one day and my wife kind of gave me a hug and a kiss and a hello. And she looked at me and she went, "How long have you smelled like this?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, "You stink. I'm going to go get some essential oils. I've been reading about essential oils. I'm going to go get some essential oils." So she did. She came back. She made these little concoctions and alchemic remedies for me to spray on myself and that sort of thing. This led to us teaching, training, and educating on the efficacy of plants and the power of essential oils. And that took us on tour to festivals and conscious transformational experiences. And each time we would go and speak at one of these places, I would always seek out the sound bath. I would always seek out the angels that would play. LIB was one that really resonated with me, where literally we set up our tent, we got to camp, we didn't have to talk for 2 days, and I'd be like, "All right, where's the sound bath? And let me go and lay down for 45 minutes. So I became tied to the root of what we do now in frequency therapy through acoustic instruments, bells, chimes, gongs, didgeridoos, and these different sound healing experiences where at the strike of the first bell, chime, or gong, I would knock out. And then I would wake 45 minutes to an hour later feeling amazing, ready to charge the festival. Right? So I'm an audiophile. I like technology. I like sound. I like crisp, clean sound. I've always had a great sound system in my house. Fast forward a couple years, I buy a gong CD, and I'm sitting at my house with all of my speakers around me. I'm starfished out in the middle of my living room, and I've got my 2 front speakers over my shoulder. I've got my center channel in between my legs. I've got my 2 rears on either side of my arms and between my arms and legs. And my wife came home, and I remember specifically from the garage to the kitchen, she was carrying 2 bags of groceries. She had to step over me, and she kind of looked at me and laughed like what are you doing? You know? And I'm literally here I'm cranking this gong CD, trying to recreate the sound healing experience that I had. And of course I was using the wrong technology. Fast forward about 12 months later, I get a phone call from my now business partner, Dominic, and he says, "I've got a piece of technology you need to come check out." And it was our sound lounge. And I, of course, said, "I'll come down." And I got on this tech. I put on the headphones. And for those that aren't familiar with their technology, we use tactile transducers to create a vibratory expression of sound and frequency. Think of it as a digital delivery system for sound and frequency to the body. And we can certainly talk more about the tech as we dive into it. But I basically got about halfway through this track they were playing for me and took the headphones off, and I kind of looked at Dom and I was like, all right, I've got questions. I need to know what's going on here. You did something I've been trying to do. I need to know. And they just kind of laughed and put the headphones back on me and said, finish your session. And after that, they put on another track, and I never made it through that second track. I was literally like, I need one. I need to know what you did. You need to tell me about this tech. And really our relationship was born right then and there in Dom's office. And
that's awesome.
At the time, the company was called Holistic Health Science, and they were very much focused on all of these various technologies, PEMF, biofeedback, sound and vibration, and lasers, cold lasers, light therapy, that sort of thing. And they were bringing all of these products to market. I have a background in business development. I said to Dom, I need one. How do I get one? And he kind of gave me this like convoluted, well, you give me a check and we've got a few of these being made and we'll get it to you. And I almost cut him off and I was like, it's not a good answer. We need a website. If I'm interested in this, other people are going to be interested in this. We need to start telling people about this. We need a platform and we need education and all of the things that we've now put together, which has rolled into our now company In Harmony Interactive. And I can certainly give some more details on that as well. But that's how I got into it. For my business partner, Dom, he gravitated 6 months to a year, really even longer than that, into this technology because he was in a series of bad relationships, had some PTSD that he was dealing with, tried to self-medicate through alcohol and recreational experiences that he was creating. And ultimately, it was sound and frequency and vibration therapy that helped him to get his head on straight, to calm and relax his nervous system. Now we know a lot more about, obviously, the science behind what we do. But that's always been a really big driver for me. I need to understand what's the hypothesis, what are the tests that we can do to figure out exactly how this technology influences our body. And we're just scratching the surface as to what we know and what we think we know, and obviously the quantum field, and there's so much more that really comes into it. But
absolutely,
that's how we got started. Holistic Health Science was born. We started mass producing sound lounges, our first piece of technology, back in November of 2016. And we haven't slowed down since, innovating new products and, of course, rolling out our meditation cushion and now our app and all the different collaborations from there. It's been a lot of fun to watch this whole thing build and grow.
Brilliant, brother. Yeah, and the meditation cushion, would you say, is your most popular product?
Well, we've certainly sold the most of them. We've sold just over 1,000 meditation cushions. We have our next 1,000 set to deliver, actually. It's getting loaded into a container in 3 days. So,
beautiful.
Yeah, we've found a lot of success, and certainly, look, a $5,500 sound lounge being brought home is a different decision than a $900 meditation cushion, for example, right? Current pricing. So we were able to touch a lot more. It's if you're familiar with the Tesla model, Elon Musk was very quick to talk about how he was going to roll out the Tesla with a more expensive, less approachable proof of concept in his most expensive S series, and then the X series, and then coming up with eventually the C series, right, which was a lot more approachable. And we did the same thing. We started with our sound lounge. It's still our Cadillac, 4 transducers, 300-watt amplifier, Sennheiser headphones. It's a phenomenal standalone piece. Then in January of 2018, we came out with our practitioner, designed to go on top of a massage table to augment massage therapy and other physical therapies like acupuncture, acupressure, that sort of thing. And then we came out with and started developing the meditation cushion very early on because we wanted something that ultimately would be less than $500. Current manufacturing and supply chain management just didn't allow us to get to that price point, but the goal is to always gain economies of scale and pass that savings on to the consumer and lower our prices. One of the most difficult things I had to do in the last 6 months was actually raise our prices because all of our costs over this pandemic have gone up. And we ate it for as long as we could. And recently we increased our price to $888. And my intention is in time to hopefully gain back those economies of scale and then lower that price so that more people can gain access to our technology.
It's interesting times right now, that's for sure. And I mean, just we were remodeling the kitchen, like I was telling you the other day, where a kitchen used to be 12, 15 grand. They want 30 for, building cabinets, painting cabinets $4,000.
It's ridiculous. So I have a motorhome. I actually traveled full time in my motorhome forever. And in order to get the sound lounge in there, I had to take out the couch and one of the banquettes and build a platform. So me and my wife were sitting at my friend's studio and shop in LA, and he literally went out for the day and he was like, have at it, whatever you need, build a box. I didn't think it'd be that hard to build a box. Never done it before. I'm not a carpenter, although I certainly know a thing or two about how to do this. So I just took 2 pieces of plywood and dialed the whole thing in. Anyway, I went to a friend of mine and I said, hey, I'd like to a real, construction builder, designer. And I said, hey, I want to rebuild this. And I'd love to engage you to help me with this. And the sheer price of wood alone made it particularly cost prohibitive at that particular time. And just watching over the pandemic, scarce resources and demand and challenging times indeed. Yep,
indeed. So let's talk more about the technology and the science behind the technology, because I'm a sound healer, right? I use a plethora of different instruments and now getting more into the digital instrumentation and how to create beneficial frequencies there. And I know about, how frequency resonates in the body and how the body, especially the water in the body begins to shape and shift into these beautiful crystalline structures whenever it connects and gets bathed in these beneficial frequencies, such as from a 432 hertz quartz crystal bowl or a Tibetan bowl or a didgeridoo. So I'd love to know from the vibroacoustic perspective, what is it that really drives this technology, and especially from your perspective and from your vision as a vibroacoustic therapist?
Yeah, totally. Thank you. So, look, it's the same concepts that govern what we do as what governs sound healers with traditional acoustic instruments. The vibratory frequency, the resonance of that bowl, and being in the presence of that bowl is very similar to being in the vibratory presence of a tactile transducer, which is the technology that we use. And in fact, I don't have it here, but I can easily go run and get it if that's something that we want to take a look at, just to show you the actual physical disc that we use and what that looks like. But it basically looks like half of a speaker. It's the driver behind a subwoofer, if you will, which has a little magnet in it that translates frequency into vibration. 20 oscillations per second is a 20 hertz frequency. Body is consumed or made of mostly water, 70 to 90%, right? 70% below the neck, just under 90% above the neck and the brain. And that water, as we've seen by the work of Dr. Emoto and many others that have looked at this, holds and has memory. And there's a variety of different reasons why our bodies are pulled out of harmonic resonance with the world around us. So there's a couple things or terms that I just want to kind of put out there. You have harmonic resonance and resonant frequency. So every object on Earth, you, me, the desk, the microphone, all of it has a resonant frequency. Vibration is everything. And it seems almost intuitive to say that, but the reality is even things that look solid in this world are actually vibrating. Right? Back to...
And you're never touching them.
And you're never touching, anything. Like my hands are not touching right now, even as I push them as hard as I can. It's really remarkable when you start getting into the work of Nassim Harriman and the quantum field, and that's a whole other conversation that we could dive down if we want to.
For sure.
But this concept of resonant frequency and everything having its own resonant frequency, and then harmonic resonance is basically two objects being in harmonic resonance with one another. So when you hit that bowl and I'm sitting in front of it and I'm feeling the frequencies, that frequency as it's emitting from that bowl is bringing objects in its presence into harmonic resonance with that bowl. So if it's a 432 hertz bowl, your body begins to vibrate at 432 hertz.
Correct.
Which is wonderful when you start to think about all the things that pull us out of vibratory frequency or harmonic resonance, right? Like you don't want to get into harmonic resonance with your cell phone, right?
As you lift your phone, your headphones, your Apple Watch.
And I use it all, right? And for me, there's a conscious decision between the pros and cons of these technologies and the absence of those technologies. And I'm a technologist. I understand a lot about electromagnetic fields. I understand a lot about this harmonic resonance. So for me, it becomes very important to be around things that bring me into a positive harmonic resonance, or bring my body back to its resonant frequency, which hovers, depending on the study that you look at, anywhere between 5 hertz and 16 hertz. Call it right smack in the middle, 10 hertz. When you look at the resonant frequency of a large body of water, 10 hertz. When you look at the resonant frequency of nature, the trees and the forest, 10 hertz. That patch of grass that you have outside that we like to ground into and walk barefoot in, 10 hertz. When you start to look at the mind and the way that our brain actually transmits signals, we can actually track the manner in which our neurons fire and the speed at which they fire. And you start to get into different brainwave states, beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma, right? And you start to figure out the harmonic resonance of the brain versus the harmonic resonance of the body versus the harmonic resonance of the world around us. That 10 hertz continues to come up. The resonant frequency of the planet Earth, 7.83 hertz, also known as the Schumann frequency. Exactly. And it fluctuates. It can be as high as 30 or 40 hertz. It can be as low or as completely gone. You try and measure the Schumann resonance in any major city, and you can't find it. They're now going over the ocean, away from everything, to actually have the equipment sensitive enough to test that so that it can actually find that Schumann resonance and pick up on that. We can certainly talk about how that Schumann resonance was created and where it came from, because I didn't know until I started doing this research either.
Wow. I'd love to.
Yeah, so let's jump into that real quick. All right, so so at any given time on the planet Earth, all the way around the globe, total other conversation that we can dive into, but let's just call it around the globe. At any given time, there's about 2,000 rainstorms, thunderstorms. At any 1 second, there's about 50 lightning strikes that go from that stormy cloud to the ground, those ground strikes. Around that electromagnetic strike of lightning, it emits a frequency, and that frequency is 7.83 hertz. So it's these accumulated lightning strikes that are striking all over the planet Earth, that from the ionosphere to the ground, that create this wave pattern. These waves then bounce from the ground to the ionosphere, the ground to the ionosphere, and they align with other frequencies and other waves that are in the same frequency. So that accumulation is the Schumann resonance. And Professor Schumann, Dr. Schumann, I'm forgetting his full name right now, but back in the 1940s or 50s is when he discovered the Schumann resonance. And he actually began doing these tests. So everywhere on planet Earth, for the most part, even as I sit inside, it's really challenging to pick up on the Schumann resonance. It's why we have to go outside and spend time in nature. So there was a gentleman, another German physicist, who began taking students into World War II bunkers underground. And he began keeping them there for 3-4 weeks on end. And that bunker was absent of the Schumann resonance. And what he discovered was that over time, within a couple weeks, all of the students that were going through that and being studied began to show signs of disease. They began getting dizzy. They began having brain fog. They began showing a lot of the signs and symptoms that we see every day and label it as something else, diagnose it as something else, but it could simply be the absence of the Schumann resonance and not getting out in nature. So he began introducing a Schumann resonator, tiny little square box that simply emits the Schumann resonance. And he didn't tell the students when he would be putting these in and turning them on. But what he noticed was that almost on contact, when he pushed play on this Schumann resonator, all of their symptoms went away.
Wow.
Really remarkable, right? So when you start to think about, going back to your question, these different sound healing technologies, as well as the acoustic instruments, bring us into harmonic resonance with the frequency that they are emitting. And that taps into all of the water and breaks negative patterns and brings us back into balance with the world around us. When you sit in meditation, what I didn't realize was that every time I laid down in one of those sound healing sessions, that my body was being brought back into harmonic resonance, my brain into harmonic resonance with my body, into harmonic resonance with the environment around me. Of course I left feeling like $1,000,000. It helped that I was on festival grounds, that I was laying on the earth, that I was outside camping. But you hold that until the stimuli come back. So all of these different things that I pointed to before that are pulling me out of harmonic resonance with my brain, body, and environment, it's important that I take time to drop back into harmonic resonance by getting around and putting this vessel in the presence of these healing frequencies that are bringing us back into harmonic resonance. And there's lots of different ways that you can do it. Look, negative thoughts, different thought patterns that are present, negative self-talk. Forget about other people and their negative thoughts that are projected onto us on a regular basis, like the news and other outlets like that, are all pulling us out of harmonic resonance. So we need to take as much time as we can, as often as needed, to bring our bodies back into harmonic resonance. And these physical devices and expressions, instruments, flute that you were playing as I came online today, beautiful, right? And they all bring us back in harmonic resonance. So too do plant medicines, and the icarus that are sung. The oldest vibratory tool on the planet, instrument on the planet, is the human voice.
The voice.
And even right now, as I feel my chest, I feel the vibratory signature of my voice. I can't sing. I'm not going to shut down the podcast by trying to do it, but being in the presence of even humming and toning, this becomes a really powerful way to bring the body back into harmonic resonance and drop into that meditative state, and do so very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's super interesting. I was actually, so as a musician, and I've been singing for a handful of years and really pursuing it more and more, and studied vocal toning as well. And so we guide people through this experience, vocal toning. And my good friend, one of my dearest friends, my best friend, him and I were kind of playing around with alms. Like, what's the best alm? You know, like that's a little bit of a spiritual ego there. What's the best alm? Is my alm better than yours, right? And so I was just playing around with alms. What alm feels the best? And there's a specific alm, and I can do it really quickly. Yeah. And this alm, I feel it. I mean, just whoo, you know, I feel it in my groin. I feel it all down my front, my chest, my diaphragm, my groin. I was like, God, what key is this alm in? As a musician, I'm super curious. And I look, and it's a 432A. I'm like, oh, how convenient. Yeah, right on time.
So good.
And A being that, you know, for people who don't study music, A is kind of that central key, that central note. Starts at C, D, E, F, G, A, and 432 is that resonant frequency that you see so many different sound healing instruments and tools in. But coming back to this conversation, it sounds to me like what you have created is basically a visceral sound healing experience on demand for someone who's living in an apartment in New York City, for example.
Nailed it. It's, again, going back to that visualization or that image that hopefully I painted in your head of me laying on the ground with music in front of me and these speakers as my wife is walking over me laughing, right? Like, I'm trying to imprint my body with those frequencies and with that vibratory expression. And you nailed it. I was using the wrong technology, right? I wasn't laying on... I think of Howard Stern and his movie where the gal is sitting on the speaker, right? You almost needed to be laying on the speaker in order to feel what I'm feeling by laying on my sound lounge. And of course, the technology itself is also very important in that you're not laying on a speaker. You're laying on a tactile transducer, which is imprinting on you the vibratory expression of that note or that frequency. And that's what you're feeling. Now, there's something that happens on our technology that takes you even deeper than that. So the tactile transducers that we use, and my wife actually opened the door for a second. I was going to ask her to get the transducer that we have.
If you'd like to run and go grab one, you're more than welcome.
Well, I'll get there and
cool.
Yeah, let me go run.
Go ahead. While Craig goes and grabs a transducer, I'd like to share this cool study. This cool science, I should say. Field of science called sinusoidology, where each and every one of our cells makes a sound. It sings a song, and it's a study of how our cells harmonize and they harmonize the frequency with other sounds. And so I was just telling them about sonocytology, which I just learned about the other day, about how each and every one of our cells sings a song and creates a certain frequency. And it makes so much sense to me, when I play a C, right? And then I play the E, and those harmonize together. It's just like if our cells are connecting with these other sounds in nature and totally harmonizing with them. And then if we play something like 440 hertz pop music or gangster rap or death metal, how the cells can, start to create this dissonance, which they showed that as well. A dead cell still has a sound, but it's really dull.
Here's the wild part about what you just said. And, us as humans, right, and this human existence that we're having resonate with different frequencies. So harmonic resonance for me might be different than the harmonic resonance for you. And even as we're creating music, and I'll talk about this tactile transducer in a second, and I'll talk about our tech, but first a little story. So I've put thousands of people on my technology, right? I love setting up at different events, trade shows, festivals, whatever. I take it with me pretty much everywhere I go. And I'm sharing it with a friend of mine, Patengo. If you're out there and you're watching, you might know Patengo. He makes these incredible rings. And we were setting up a festival, and he hadn't been on our tech yet. And I put him on the tech, and I played standard track that I use as a demo. And he got off it, and he said, "Cool tech. Music, not so much for me." And I went, "Okay, well, what do you like?" And he goes, "You have any Rage Against the Machine?" Okay. I used to listen to Rage Against the Machine when I was snowboarding. Not really part of my awakening, and it's certainly not something that I'm listening to on a regular basis, but I used to love
great.
He's an incredible musicians in that group. Okay.
Great for snowboarding, though.
It was great. It was very aggressive and just getting into it. Okay. So I said, "Do you have it on your phone?" And he said, "I do." I said, "Great. Plug your phone in." He laid down, and for 3 minutes, he played one of their more aggressive tracks. I won't repeat the lyrics, but it was F you, I won't do what you tell me, that particular track. And the expression off of his body, okay, his body was writhing. He was clearly having an experience, and the smile on his face was ear to ear. And he got off it, and he went, "That was amazing. You have to give it a try." And I got on it, and it sounded incredible. Here's why. So the tactile transducers that we use are, they're tuned to release the frequency between, the frequency response is 20 hertz to 200 hertz. Okay. Just to put that in perspective, most home stereo systems, the subwoofer that's in the corner is typically 80 hertz and below. So we're talking about very low frequencies. The formal body of research for vibroacoustic therapy, you can search the term VAT or vibroacoustic therapy, studied 30 hertz to 120 hertz and impacts of specific frequencies on our physiology, our anatomy, our neurology, and the body. We chose those frequencies because we wanted to align with a little bit of a broader expression of vibroacoustic therapy. But once you get over 120, 130, 140 hertz, it's actually a pretty high frequency relative to what the transducer can do. That's what you're feeling in the transducers coming out of the sound lounge, the practitioner, or the base of the meditation cushion. The rest of the frequencies, the ear can hear frequencies down to 20 hertz all the way up to 20,000 hertz. So when you have the headphones on the sound lounge and you're hearing every frequency through your ears. In fact, we use Sennheiser headphones, and those headphones have a frequency response of 8 hertz all the way up to 28,000 or 25,000 hertz. Okay, so outside of the capabilities of the human ear. So you're getting everything through the ears. You're only getting the low frequencies through the transducer. And the body is basically hearing the same frequencies that it's feeling. And we have these, they're called mechanoreceptors in the surface of our skin. It's what allows you to feel the pressure changes in your skin. We actually have 4 different types of mechanoreceptors. I have a nice blog article. It's going to be going up talking about the science behind mechanoreceptors. But a good portion of what we hear actually comes from pressure changes in our body. We've all been at a concert or a festival where you feel the bass coming through, right? You're hearing the bass. Oh, yeah. You're also feeling it. And that pressure change that you feel is coming through basically an assault of your mechanoreceptors in your skin that's sending a signal to your brain about that frequency that it's feeling. Sound Lounge does something very similar, only instead of 100,000 watts being pumped through a sound system and lots of space and air between you and the speaker, you're connected to it. So you're feeling that vibratory expression. The brain interprets what it's feeling and what it's hearing, because now it's not just getting a frequency stimulation from the cochlea in your ear, but it's actually getting that same stimulation from just about every cell in your body. It is literally in this cocoon of sound. And the brain interprets that as this three-dimensional, fully immersive auditory experience that makes it feel as though you are inside. The interpretation from this conscious mind is that I'm inside the music. I am surrounded by the music. And it's really interesting. The same thing can happen when you're sitting in front of a sound bowl or a gong. You're feeling the same frequencies. Right. Your feet tingle. Every cell in your body feels like it's coming alive. Your brain interprets that as this immersive experience, and it turns off a lot of the other stimuli around us and focuses your attention on that sound, that frequency. So not only is every cell in your body getting this auditory or acoustic adjustment, it's also being stimulated to a point where the brain just turns off all these other stimuli, and that becomes the forefront of your experience. So as he's laying on this sound lounge, Patango is laying on this sound lounge, feeling what he's feeling, listening to Rage Against the Machine. He's resonating with this track, with the voice, and the lead singer of that band, his voice was so low, the bass guitar was so strong that you were feeling that through the sound lounge, and there was overlap between what you're hearing in his voice and what you're feeling in his voice. And and because he loves that music and resonates with that music so much, whether it's gangster rap, heavy metal, hardcore, whatever, that person is simply realizing and recognizing an amplified experience and expression of that music and dropping into that.
Absolutely.
Pretty powerful stuff.
Super powerful. And, what immediately comes to mind is, during sound baths, during breath work, one of the biggest benefits is when the default mode network shuts down, right? The prefrontal cortex takes a nap, and the body innately begins to go back to that primal consciousness, and the body innately begins to heal itself intuitively. And, I tell everybody before a breathwork session, you are your own healer. We all have this innate ability to heal ourselves. The only thing that's in the way is the thinking mind. And we're conditioned to live within this thinking mind when really it's only good for research and communication. And so I find that what you just said is right on point with that. When the default mode network shuts down and relaxes, this will allow someone to experience that innate healing ability within their body. And so that's how it works. When you're feeling all of the different frequencies and the bass and all of the different facets of the music, the default mode network just kind of relaxes. Is that correct?
Absolutely. There's another part of the brain that's really important, and it's the reticular activator system. The reticular activator system is what blocks out the 40,000 plus stimuli that our brain interacts with every second. The sheer number of that is just mind-boggling, right? All the different inputs. Now, we're sitting in a relatively quiet environment right now, but it's the equivalent of when you're sitting at a restaurant and all of a sudden you hear somebody say Ben, and you're focused on our conversation, but all of a sudden the reticular activator system says, this is relative, it's your name, it's something that's relative to you. It's like I was thinking about buying a pickup truck, and all of a sudden I see pickup trucks everywhere. They were always there,
of course,
but it was being blocked. It wasn't being brought to my forefront because it wasn't relative information. And
every time you buy a car, that always happens, right? Especially the nice ones.
I didn't realize there's so many pickup trucks around, right? And it's like they were always there. So there's another aspect of this, which again, you're breaking down a lot of the normal patterns associated with the day-to-day functioning of the brain, and drifting and dropping into a new pattern. And what that allows us to do is to reset in some ways. That I don't want to label something a negative pattern, but we are pattern people, and
creatures of habit.
Creatures of habit, totally, right? I tell a story a lot. Like, I give the example a lot. You brush your teeth probably the same way. I start with the bottom left, I go to the bottom right, I go to the top left, top right.
Yep.
I come out of the shower, I dry myself the same way. I dry myself the way I dry myself. You might dry yourself in a totally different order. Some people might start at their feet and work their way up. I start with my head, and then I go to my back, and then I go my left arm and my right arm, and I don't even think about it. It's like if you drop your kid off at school every day, and then you get in your car that one day, school's closed, your kid's not even in the back seat, and you find yourself on a phone call sitting in front of your kid's school like, why am I here? Well, a pattern that you've developed is to get in the car first thing in the morning, drive to school, and then go to work. It's really interesting when we start to recognize the power of sound and the power to break down and reset some of these patterns that might not be serving us for optimal human performance. And bringing ourselves back into balance as a little, like I said, an acoustic reset, if you will, and allowing us to then reseed new patterns and practices. And we were talking before about what a retreat might look like. One of the reasons why an immersive retreat is so powerful is that you are breaking the normal patterns of your day-to-day life, immersing yourself in another world with a new set of patterns, which means your brain is turned on and activated, and you have an opportunity to break those patterns and reseed a new habit, which of course you need to carry on past that 3-day, 5-day, 7-day retreat, whatever it might be. But eventually, and in time, you can create new habits, create new patterns, and the neuroplasticity of the brain is absolutely remarkable. And our ability to reset those patterns and create new patterns, it's one of the reasons why it's not always so easy to go cold turkey, but it's easier if you go cold turkey with something and you fill it with something else, with a more beneficial pattern.
Absolutely. It sounds, this is kind of obvious, but that this, having one of these meditation cushions and being able to drop in and feel the music viscerally would be a great supplementation for meditation. If somebody's just new to meditation, they've never meditated before, ultimately that space of spaciousness is where we're looking to get in meditation, that space of emptiness. And, it's not easy to have never meditated and then just sit down and pay attention to the breath going over your top lip.
Right.
It's not an easy thing to do. And so this will be an excellent tool for somebody that's wanting to get into meditation, who's got a little bit of a budget to, maybe not even hire a meditation teacher or go to meditation retreat, but just get something that they can utilize every day and really enjoy doing so.
Here's the wild part about what you just said. Now, as an entrepreneur and a marketer and somebody who's putting themselves out there in the world through podcasts like this and, of course, through social media, the commentary in the posts that we put up, and we've got some of our ads have been running for a year. I've got thousands, hundreds of thousands of views and a line of comments. I read those comments. Anybody in online marketing will tell you not to read those comments. I read the comments, and
you're not just anybody.
I think it's an important part, right? In fact, at one point I was replying to all of them. Unfortunately, it's just too much. I can't reply right now, but I felt the need to at least shape somebody's understanding because they think who I am based on the ad and what we're doing. And here's the reality, and I'm the first one to tell you. You don't need, and this might be detrimental to the health of the company, and it doesn't matter. You don't need my tech to meditate. I want to be very clear, and I want to put this out there. You simply need yourself and a space for you to sit down and do it. Now, that said, meditation can be challenging for a lot of people. And let me share with you why. And let me share with you why our meditation is such a cushion is such a breakthrough, and the guided meditations that come with it, which, by the way, you don't even need to spend $1 on my app. You can go to YouTube and you can go to Insight Timer and you can listen to the spectacular BenHolt, and you can listen to, I know you've got lots of different guided meditations that are there, and they're free, right? And some of them are by donation, and you should totally donate, and you should totally take care of the artists that are creating these things and all of that stuff, right? But the reality is you don't need to pay. You can go get it. Now, here's why I'll tell you why it's important to pay, because one, you're supporting an ecosystem, you're supporting an artist that's putting their art out there, and that's challenging for anybody to do. Yeah. But the other reason, and I think it's more important, is that guided meditation, or better yet, that guided meditation on a meditation cushion like ours, can help you to break the patterns and train the brain to break the patterns that would otherwise not allow you to drop into that meditative state. So let's talk about brainwave patterns for a second. When your eyes are open, you're experiencing a beta brainwave. It's measured between 12 to 14 hertz, all the way up to about 40 hertz on an EEG, echoencephalograph. Basically looks like a swim cap, and there's little sensors, 19 of them on this harness, and it tells you how fast that part of your brain is firing. And we've all heard the expression, you only use 10% of your brain. It's not exactly true. It's sort of true. At any one time, you're only using a portion of your brain. Your motor skills is one part. So if you're not moving, you're not using that part of the brain. It's dormant. It's quiet. Memory recall, linguistics, right? It all comes from different parts of the brain. And we know this now through EEG testing that you're not using all of your brain at all times, but you're using a portion of it. What's remarkable is that music harmonizes and activates your brain in a very magical way. And there's a ton of Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Dr. Amy. Like there's lots of folks out there that are focused on the neurology and the neurological impact of different experiences on the brain. And the science is remarkable from my perspective. Listening to music activates and harmonizes otherwise dormant parts of your brain. It can harmonize the left and the right. So listening to music, feeling music, better yet, and listening to a guided meditation helps you to quiet your brain from a beta brainwave, eyes open, exploring the world around you. Think about how many inputs. All of my senses are firing and sending stimulation to my brain when my eyes are open and I'm processing the world around me. When I close my eyes, I'm turning off, even though there's still some things going on behind the eyelids, but by and large, I'm decreasing the amount of inputs. So when your eyes are closed, you can drift from beta, eyes open, into alpha, which is just below that, measured between 8 hertz up to about 12 or 14 hertz, or theta, just below that, measured between 4 hertz and 7.5, 8 hertz, or delta, just below that, measured between about 0.5 hertz all the way up to about 4 hertz. When we sleep at night, we actually drift from beta into alpha, theta, delta, delta, theta, alpha, beta. And we go in and out of these sleep cycles over the course of the night. Why sound and vibration is so powerful is because your brain knows what to do when it feels and hears these frequencies. And it almost automatically breaks the patterns associated with, I can't sit and meditate, I can't turn my brain off, I can't stop thinking about the to-do list, I'm always thinking. Sitting down and telling somebody to just clear your mind is for me, the active entrepreneur with probably diagnosed or misdiagnosed ADD or ADHD. It's about the worst thing that you can say, right? Just sit there and not think about anything. That's really difficult. A guided meditation or a music meditation, as we call them in our app, helps to guide the brain, and it helps to distract. We say on our website, say goodbye to a distracted mind. You're not really saying goodbye to a distracted mind. We're simply distracting your mind and your body into that meditative state. And we've seen this happen just about on contact, where once the music starts playing, the brain starts to react to the music, the body starts to react to the vibrations, and you teach your brain to drift from beta into alpha. I talk to a lot of people that can't sleep, and I ask them, "What do you have? You have trouble falling asleep? You have trouble staying asleep?" Because they want to know if my technology can help. And the answer is obviously it can. Why? Because we're teaching your brain to go from beta into alpha, alpha into theta, theta hopefully into delta, and then come back. It's almost like you're working out your brain and teaching it how to do that, such that you don't need our technology forever. You might want to use it, and there's a lot of people that do use our tech and continue to use our tech. So there's two scenarios with this, and sorry to kind of go on, but this is a really poignant aspect and application of our technology. You kind of have two users of our tech. You have somebody that has never meditated before or has had difficulty meditating, and they use our technology to teach their body and their brain, just like I was just sharing. And then you also have folks that have been meditating. I talk to people all the time that have a 20-plus year daily meditative practice that get on our technology and they go deeper, faster, and they stay deeper longer, or they get more accomplished in the meditation than they ever did without the technology. And one person explained it to me as this, and I love his application because he runs a tennis studio and teaches kids how to meditate so that their tennis game improves. It works same with golf. We've got people, elite athletes in the NFL, NHL, MLB.
Any sport.
It's really remarkable. Olympic athletes that use our technology. And what they tell me is that, and this is a quote directly from George. I love you, brother. He says, "Craig, I've been meditating for 20 plus years, 20 minutes a day. I didn't realize that I wasn't getting to the total destination that I could. I didn't know what it looked like because I didn't know how to get there until I listened to your music and got on the tech and applied the practice that he had. And he was able to get to a different destination. Moreover, now when he meditates without the technology, he can go straight there and get there much faster and go much deeper. Really powerful. Really
Fantastic.
powerful. And he still uses the tech. I check in with him every now and again. He's had the tech for almost a year. Still uses it daily. But you pick up that. It's almost like training wheels on a bike for a kid. Right?
Absolutely.
And teaching the brain to get there. But it's not something that you need forever. It's not something that you need to use every single time, but it is something that can teach the brain the patterns it needs in order to drop into a deeper meditation so that you can get more value out of the practice.
That's beautiful, man. And this is why I love you, dude. Your integrity. I mean, how many people are going to tell you, hey, you're not going to have to use my product forever. Just a few times and you'll learn how to meditate more powerfully, which with me, the thing is, when you use the product and it works, you're going to keep using it, especially if it's a cool experience. And for me, I'm always trying to optimize like all levels of being, right? You have your supplementation. I even have a neurofeedback machine here right now. My brother Raphael donated it to me. We bartered. And so this $10,000 little shitty Asus laptop comes with a box, and then you plug the modules into different parts, your earlobes, your ear top, and the head. And it's exactly what you're talking about, brain training. And I've noticed over the course of the few weeks that I've had it, it is a little easier for me to just drop back into those theta states. It is easier for me to experience relaxation more frequently, but it would be way better if I was able to sit, if this machine was the In Harmony machine, I would love it much, much more. Because this machine only provides us with headphones. They're not even good headphones. You plug them into a computer. It's not the experience I'm looking for. And this machine's $10,000. Let's remind you, it's $10,000. And so for $888, you're going to be able to get a cushion that does the same job in a much more enjoyable experience. So, I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer.
So, look, we're at the tip of the iceberg, and you're going to see me get even more excited as I start to talk about the vision and where this whole thing is going, because you bring up biofeedback and different biometrics that we can track. Look, it's one of the reasons why I wear the watch, right? I like counting my steps. I like knowing how many. I live in a ranch house, but I like knowing how many flights of stairs I go up. I get disappointed when I look at it and I'm like, I live in a ranch. I haven't gone up any stairs today, right? And when I was living in New York, I lived in a 5th floor walk up, 64 steps every time I wanted to go to my front door. I love the
no elevator.
No elevator. Try moving in and out of that place. It was an experience. Dude. It was a box I needed to check. Oh, I want to live in a walk up, and I don't think I'll ever do it again. But it was certainly fun to do in my 20s when I had the energy. Biofeedback is a great addition to it. And look, you can have the conversation you want to have, and I'm down to have a deep one. Not let's have it off the air about how much information we're tracking and how much is being tracked. Okay, no doubt, it needs to be done with some consciousness and needs to be done with some awareness for sure. But the biofeedback that is starting to come out of the data that we now have, and it's way to impact and affect what we're doing. I'll tell you, I was CES just passed here. In Las Vegas, and I met with a team over at a company called Alpha Beats. I love this company. I love what they're doing. They take your Spotify playlist, and when you play it, they layer on top of it binaural beats, and they have 2 or 3 different modes. They have another mode that actually plays with the equalizer based on your biofeedback, your heart rate variability, and how many breaths you're taking to help induce a deeper meditative state just by listening to specific music. You bet your bottom dollar I want to talk about how their tech can integrate with our app. Instead of Spotify playlist, play my playlist. Use my app. So that you're laying or sitting on the meditation cushion, and we can utilize the biofeedback that's coming, which is what this device is doing in your house, to influence the music that you're listening to, and either pick up the pace or slow down the pace, or pick up the bass or lower the bass, and start to interact with our technology in a much more beneficial way based on biomarkers that we can't necessarily consciously control. You can in certain ways, right? I can control how fast I breathe. That will impact a bit. But like, generally speaking, I don't have conscious authority over my heart rate variability. That's something that is simply a product of the environment I'm sitting in. So there's some very cool integrations that we're going to be able to do that. And this is one of the reasons why I love doing podcasts like this. I love talking about this. And I love how you reached out to us in the first place, is because I don't want to recreate the wheel. Creating vibroacoustic technology and manufacturing from start to finish an object from an idea to large-scale production is challenging enough. And I will continue to innovate on products and on our existing product set. However, I don't want to recreate the wheel. Alpha Beats has this incredible technology that already takes into account the algorithms of the biometrics. I want to partner with them, and I want to bring more to our user base. And I want to have a bigger impact ultimately on our mindfulness, our mental health, and the manner in which our bodies come back into that homeostasis or harmonic resonance with the world around us. I get really excited when I start to think about the potential of this technology. Easy for me to get discouraged that we're not there yet. I have to continue to tell myself that it's all in divine timing and that it will all happen as it's supposed to happen, and that it will be easy when it is supposed to happen. And it's difficult when I try and force things to happen a little bit faster than they're actually unfolding. So there's a lot of potential in this technology, and I get real excited about the collaborations. Red light therapy, PEMF, crystal therapy, magnet therapy, infrared heat. I mean, you start to think about all the tools that we have from a biohacking perspective, to include hot and cold therapy or nutritional therapies, supplementation. Like, there's some really cool stuff that's happening even from a technology perspective and a supplement perspective. Like, there's companies out there that utilize GABA that gets put on your throat that helps you to, GABA is a precursor to melatonin production in the brain. There's some really cool things that you can do. I've got this device, if anybody's familiar with what this is, sitting in front of me. I don't want to make this about all the different technology companies that are out there, but the reality is, as a technologist, these are the topics that I like to explore, both personally and professionally. And and anytime I find or discover another crutch, I want to share it with people, and I want to integrate, and I want to collaborate, so that I could say, hey, you do something really well. I do something really well. Let's see if we can bring that together and mutually benefit ourselves and our companies and our shared customer. And it's like our partnership with BrainTap. BrainTap's incredible.
Yeah, I was about to say.
We gave them our music. They coded our music to trigger their technology. So now you can sit on a meditation cushion, practitioner, or sound lounge, put on the BrainTap headset, listen to our music, and have brainwave entrainment at the same time. Remarkable. It's
in front of a red light panel, you know, might as well, right after a cold plunge, and you're going to live to be 500 years old.
I'll tell you, I tell people all the time I live to be 150 years old, and they laugh and they start to think about, my grandmother just passed at 100.5 years old. Okay. Her quality of life wasn't really fantastic. I'll be honest. She was home most of the time. She had full-time help that could help her to go through the day-to-day. That's not the existence that I want to have from 100 or 95 to 150. I want to live the vibrant lifestyle that I live right now, and I want to hedge and put as many. I want to give myself as much of a fighting chance to have that in front of me. I'm a big fan of gene therapy. I'm a big fan of DNA-based solutions. I'm a big fan of biohacking. Hot and cold. I love hot. I got to be honest with you. I have a real big problem with cold.
Buddy, I can help you. I can help you solve that problem.
I really am. I mean, look, even working with plant medicines. Okay, I was just telling you beforehand. I had my first sit with Combo just 2 weeks ago, and the story that I was told about Combo was how miserable it was and how uncomfortable it was, and I got to tell you, it was easy. Very uncomfortable and very easy. And the benefit, totally worth it, right? Working with these little with these plant medicines, working with these plant medicines. I sit with Hot Bay at least once a week, sometimes more often. I've sat with the different plant medicines, ayahuasca, 5-MeO, DMT. I've worked with these medicines, and and they're not challenging at all. Uncomfortable, yes. Having the right
Sure.
facilitator, having the right environment, set and setting becomes very important. These are not casual experiences. These are not recreational experiences. These are intention-driven ceremonial experiences that are designed to support my biochemistry. And I look at cold plunges the same way, by the way. I know the benefit. I know how important it is.
But they're amazing.
I know how uncomfortable it is. And it's one of those things where, like, my buddies and my girlfriends, they'd be like, all right, we're doing this cold plunge. And I'll be like, no, I got this call I got to do. And I got this other.
I'm going to go meditate.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry, can't. Oh, got to go.
So, nope. Look at the time. Yeah. So there's for everybody listening too, this is a good tip for introducing ourselves to cold therapy. And it's getting in a hot shower and getting so hot that you want the cold water. And from there, you have the beautiful contrast where you're sweating. You can either take a hot bath or a hot shower, and then you crank it cold and you get under it. Woo! And you feel that instant jolt, right? And you just lean into it and you breathe. And just my thing is really remembering how good the cold is for me. And that when I feel that, oh my God, that sensation on my skin, that sensation, I correlate that with, and you have to do this intentionally before it naturally happens, right? Eventually you shift to loving the cold, but you correlate that with health. Right. And so just as we would that combo experience of the blood pressure dropping, the heartbeat increasing, the sweat starting to bead on your skin, we have to associate that experience with, oh my God, I'm detoxing, I'm cleansing, the Phylomedusa bicolor, the color is coming through my body. This is ancient and beautiful and practical. And when you do that, it becomes more healing. It becomes more beneficial, just like with the cold. When we lean into it with vigor and appreciation, oh my God, it's so powerful. And for me, I wake up and until I get into water, I'm a mess, dude. I got long hair. My hair is I look like a troll doll. I got shit in my eyes. Like I might have breathed through my mouth a little bit if I forgot to tape it at that night. So I've got dry mouth. I've got dry nose. And until I get into water, I'm pretty much a mess. Right now we live in Louisiana, so we're between Louisiana and Sedona. So it is a little clammy here. The air is not as high quality. Luckily it's fine. We have plants around us, not too far from us. Luckily they're not creating like a ton of disgusting pollution. I looked at the air quality in New Delhi the other day because I visited there a few years ago and was blown away. And it's like 429 on the little scale. It's like, do not breathe. Basically was the memo. Here it's not that bad. Not even close to that bad. It's still good and moderate, but still at the same time. That cold water for me, long story short, is my coffee. Like as soon as I get in, I have a 7 cubic foot chest freezer that I get in. I have a temperature gauge on it. I've got 40 degrees all the time, which is amazing. Costs $300 to have a cold plunge, or you can spend $4,000 on, a fancy one. But one you can maintain yourself, $300 or so, full cold plunge. When I get in there, it's kind of like walking into the dojo.
Excited
it's
about
like
it. You're looking forward to it. I can tell.
Right. Bow to the sensei of cold. You might not be looking forward to it, but you get in because you know how good it is.
Here's the other thing.
And then when it's hot,
you can do anything for 3 minutes. Right? Like that's the other part of this whole thing. It's like you could do anything. And I do that shower. Yep. Okay. I do the cold shower thing. I take my hot shower, and I've actually been trying to turn down the heat on my showers, to take more lukewarm showers, to take more tepid showers, right? Like drifting closer to that because I know it's important, and I know the anti-aging and longevity benefits that it presents to that hot and cold therapy.
They're wild.
And it's funny, me and my wife just doing some prepping. We've got a little freezer in the out in the garage, an extra freezer for some extra food, and I specifically bought it because as this too shall pass and we come into abundance with our food supply, and I'm living on my property with my own farm and the whole regenerative, sustainable living, that's turning into a cold plunge. And
yes, sir.
And then I won't have any excuses as to what not to do it every single day. But,
yeah. Give me a call and I'll help you set it up. I love it, man. I loved setting mine up. It's so fun, and it's way easier than you would think. And I would even argue that instead of going for that lukewarm, hot, cold. And the beautiful thing is we don't even need, like for me, a lukewarm shower is just uncomfortable. Like I can do it, sure, but a cold shower gets me off. Like I love the cold shower. The lukewarm shower just pisses me. I'm like, I wish it was either hot or cold. I make up my. But the cool thing is we only need a minute of really, really cold water. So 40 degrees, you only need about a minute for the cold benefits. You don't have to do the 3 minute and 35 degrees.
The anticipation from the delay of when I go from hot to cold, because I'll just I just crank it to all the way cold, and the 6 seconds that it takes for that to start kicking in, and the brain. So I'm training my brain like, cold is good. You got this. We can maintain this. Yeah. Fighting that urge to jump out of the stream, and instead pushing myself. Think of the mental agility that it takes, the mental practice pattern that you're breaking to not walk away from things that hurt you, but instead charge them. And to stay in that stream, and moreover than that, to put my head in that stream. And, yeah, it's the fun, the things we do.
Lean in, baby. The 3Ds got a lot of uncomfortable moments, and most of them are really good for you.
That's right. Look, even combo. People ask me about the experience. I tell them it was easy, very uncomfortable. I remember saying to my facilitator on several occasions, I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable, and he just kind of laughed and chuckled, not at me, but with me, like, get it. That's what it's all about. Yeah,
that's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. In fact, that moment where I do dynamic breathwork every morning and I hold my breath and I get to the stress response and I
hold longer.
I cluck, I go and I rest in it, this stress. And that's really the trick. How deeply can we rest through stressful experiences in our life? Because it's not about, we're never going to be at a point to where we don't experience stressful experiences. They're always going to be there. And it's something that I realized in the past several years. It doesn't matter how awakened, enlightened, rich, abundant, wealthy, successful. None of that matters. You're always going to come into an experience that is uncomfortable. It's about how we navigate those experiences that really make us who we are. And if you practice that every day, embracing the suck, man, the suck you're able to embrace the suck outside of the dojo.
It's something that people compliment me on a regular basis. Like, you're so cool, calm, and collected.
That's awesome.
And well, the reason for that is because I practice, right? Like, I practice not having that visceral reaction to a stressor that's in front of me, and instead giving myself some space to think about what's happening, process what's happening, start to get into human design and how I'm driven as a manifesting generator. I need to sleep on things. I can't react. My wife, too. Complete opposite. Her initial reaction is the best reaction, and she needs to act on it. Think about how we make decisions together. She'll literally present me with something with her decision of how she wants to do it, and I need to look at her and go, I'm going to sleep on that. Let's talk about it in the morning.
Is she a manifestor?
She's a manifesting generator, but she's not. But her emotional center, and I forget exactly where she's at, but my emotional center is I need to sleep on it, and her emotional center is that she needs to react and go for it.
Go for it. I'm also a man-jin that needs to sleep on things.
Yeah,
how cool!
Awesome.
How cool, man. Well, we got to do this again soon, Craig. We're running out of time here, but I appreciate you so much, brother, and everything that you do. And I guess now is no better time than ever to say some of dynamic breathwork and some other meditations from me are going to officially be on the In Harmony app very soon. Anthony, the maestro, is working on them as we speak, throwing wubs, putting some good bass on them, so that they can be activated by the tech. And I'm super excited to be collaborating with you, brother, and really excited to get some music on there and to create some exclusive meditations and all the beautiful things that come out of this. I'm stoked about it all, bro. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you and your listeners. If anybody ever has any questions, I'm sure my contact information will be just below in the show notes. And really, if anybody has any questions about what we talked about, just like Ben reached out to us on Instagram. Please, I love hearing from the community. I love hearing about what's next, what's exciting, ideas for collaborations and creation. And please reach out anytime.
Awesome, brother. Where else can we find you? Instagram, In Harmony Interactive?
Instagram, yeah. So In Harmony Interactive is obviously I'm one of the co-founders with my spectacular business partner, Dominic, and of course our team, our director of harmonics, Anthony Weiss, our strategic and creative, Lynn Fisher, our ops manager, and Priscilla, and all of the different artists that we work with. And then my wife and I actually have a parent company. It's called Gold Zulu Incorporated, and you can find me on Instagram at Team Gold Zulu. You can also find us at In Harmony Interactive, and our website, I Am In Harmony. I'm sure it'll be linked below. And I look forward to connecting. Thank you.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much, Craig. Have a beautiful day, man. Awesome. Peace out, everybody. Much love.